I'm David Ignatius, a columnist for the Washington Post, and I'm going to moderate this afternoon's discussion of Gaza. Our discussion of Gaza follows a war there that has reminded all of us of the burden of history in the Middle East, and also has reminded all of us of the fragility of the peace process. Tonight, I hope we'll put a little more substance to that process by discussing where we go now, how we put the pieces back together. We have a most distinguished panel to discuss these issues with us tonight. Let me first briefly introduce them. To my immediate right is the Prime Minister of Turkey, Recep Tayyip ERDOğan. To his left is the President of Israel, Shimon Peres. To his left is the Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon. And to his left is the Secretary General of the Arab League, Amr Moussa. I'm going to ask Secretary General Ban Ki-moon from the United Nations, who has been particularly focused on the humanitarian aspects of the Gaza crisis, to lead off tonight with his remarks for the next 5 minutes. Secretary General.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to take part in this very important discussions on the Middle East peace process. The watchword of this Davos Forum seems to be a crisis, a multiple crisis. We have been talking about financial crisis, climate crisis, food crisis, energy crisis. But to over 1.5 million Palestinians in Gaza, these crises seem to be a distant one, considering and comparing to their daily crisis they have to endure, they have to suffer, particularly after this 3-week-long military conflict and until continuing until today. This is very sad. When I visited Gaza, I saw myself, the level of destruction, the level of tragic difficulty these people have to endure because of this crisis. I came back with a strengthened resolve as a Secretary General of the United Nations that I must do urgently to help these people in alleviating the sufferings of these humanitarian issues. This morning, I issued an urgent appeal amounting to $613 million for an immediate, urgent humanitarian assistance as well as early recovery. We are now talking about mid and long-term reconstruction. These are what I'd like to discuss with you. Now, I have 4 priorities. I think it is not me as a Secretary General. It's a whole international community must address 4 priority issues in addressing this Middle East peace process comprehensively. 2 are immediate and urgent priority issues. That is, how to make this ceasefire a durable and sustainable, and which can be respected by all the parties concerned. This ceasefire, unilaterally declared, is very fragile, as we have seen 2 days ago. One Israeli soldier was killed near the Rafah crossing. So anytime a small incident even can break this ceasefire, there must be international community's focused efforts to prevent any smuggling of illicit weapons and arms into Gaza. And Israeli government must open all the crossings to allow the free and smooth flow of humanitarian assistance and other reconstruction materials. These are very important to make this ceasefire a durable and sustainable one. There is very urgent humanitarian issues. The schools and roads, electricities and sanitations and sewages, they have all been destroyed. People have lost their beloved families, their friends, and more than 5,000 people have been wounded, with 1,300 people killed. This is a human tragedy. I visited United Nations compound, which has been bombed by Israeli forces attack. This was very shocking and alarming, and which was unacceptable. Now, these are two most urgent priority issues which we have to tackle. The remaining two issues are relating to mid and long-term process. That is unity of Palestinians. With this division of Palestinian people living in both in Gaza and West Bank, divided into Fatah and Hamas, it will be very difficult for international community to see the smooth reconstruction, smooth well-being of Palestinian people. This is very sad, and I hope that Arab countries, all Arab countries, now we have Secretary General of League of Arab States here, to facilitate this unity of Palestinians in a united way. The fourth priority, this is a fundamental one. This is a peace process. On an urgent basis, this Middle East peace process should be put on track. In that regard, I am very much encouraged by new President of the United States, President Obama, who has already taken very swift, decisive measures by appointing Special Envoy, Senator George Mitchell. He is now already traveling in the region. Israelis and Palestinians, they have achieved substantial progress during last year. They must build upon this progress thus far made. I would strongly urge United Nations will continue to participate and support that. Now then, how to ensure all this peace process to make this durable? Hamas must stop rocket firing, must not provoke Israelis. And Israelis should take maximum restraint to keep this peace process, very fragile process. Since the break of this crisis, I have been phoning and meeting the leaders of the region and international community, including 3 distinguished leaders sitting together with us. It has been very difficult. But United Nations cannot do it alone. Whole international community, particularly whole Arab countries and leaders of major countries, particularly United States, they should take a leadership role, and we must engage in Middle East peace process on an urgent and immediate basis. And I would again urge at this time to international donors to be generously and positively providing a necessary humanitarian assistance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary General Bond. Let me turn now to Prime Minister Erdoğan from Turkey. Prime Minister, your government has been playing a key role as intermediary in indirect negotiations between Israel and Syria, which were pushing ahead when the Gaza war began. Let me put to you the same question that I put to the Secretary General of the United Nations, and I want all of our guests to address. And that is, what specifically needs to be done to prevent the Middle East peace process from slipping back yet again?
Öncelikle ne yapılması gerektiğine dair sorunun cevabını vermeden bir durum tespitini yapmamızda fayda var. önce durum tespiti yapacağız ki ondan sonra da ne yapılması gerektiğini ortaya koyalım. Durum tespitini ben 40 yıl öncesinden başlamıyorum. Durum tespitine sadece Haziran 2008 sürecinden başlamak istiyorum. Haziran 2008 sürecine baktığımız zaman bir sözlü ateşkes ortada. Ve bu sözlü ateşkes süreci içerisinde herhangi bir sıkıntı söz konusu değildi. Fakat 6 aylık bu sözlü ateşkesin süresi bitince o süre içerisinde herhangi bir roket atışı, füze, bu tür şeyler olmadı. Ancak İsrail tarafının bu arada ablukaları kaldırması, ambargoları kaldırması gerekiyordu. Ne yazık ki bunlar kaldırılmadı. Gazze, Filistin adeta bir açık hapishanedir. İnsanlıktan tamamıyla tecrid edilmiş, adeta bir hapishane olarak görev görmekte. Yani herhangi bir kapısından siz Filistin'e bir sandık domates sokmaya çalışsanız İsrail'in müsaadesine tabidir. İsrail müsaade etmedikçe siz Filistin'e bir sandık domates sokamazsınız. Burada önce bir insan olarak konuşuyorum. Bir de başbakan olarak konuşacağım. Ben İsrail'i ziyarete gittim. Oradan Filistin'e geçiyorum. Türkiye Cumhuriyeti Başbakanı olarak yarım saat Ramallah kapısında bekletildim. Arabamın içinde. Eşimle birlikte. Arkadaşlarımla birlikte. Ama Türkiye Cumhuriyeti Başbakanı olarak biz bugüne kadar İsrail'den gelen herhangi bir diplomata en tepesinden en aşağısına kadar kapılarımızda böyle bir şey uygulamadık. Önce bunu neyle izah edeceğiz? Buna bir bakmamız lazım. İşin bir diğer boyutuna baktığımızda bu olaylar anlatılırken ben Sayın Olmert'e soruyorum. Diyorum ki Sayın Olmert, madem bu füzeler atıldı, peki bu atılan füzelerde herhangi bir ölüm var mı? Bana verdiği cevap hayır, yok. Ama füze atılıyor. Bu nasıl füze ki atılıyor, ölüm yok? Nasıl iş bu? Kalitesi vesaire bunlardan bahsediliyor. Ama bu 6 aylık süre içerisinde 28 tane Gazze'de Gazze'li, Filistinli öldürüldü. Bu 6 ayın sonunu söylüyorum. Ve bunun arasında da oralarda hastanelerde elektrikler kesildi. Gıda yok. Kampanya maalesef felaket bir şekilde gidiyor ve biz daha operasyonlar başlamadan önce Türkiye olarak buraya insani yardım göndermeye başladık. Süreç zaten o zaman başlamıştı. Şimdi hepimiz birlikte şurada insan olarak düşünelim. Bakın şunu peşinen söyleyeyim. Ben antisemitizmi bir insanlık suçu olarak gören liderim. Böyle bir başbakanım. İslamofobiyayı bir insanlık suçu olarak gören bir başbakanım. Benim için Hristiyanmış, Museviymiş, Müslümanmış. Bu noktada zulme uğradığında fark etmez. Benim için insan olmasıdır. Ortak paydası budur. Böyle yaklaşırım insana. Ve burada da böyle yaklaşmanın gayreti içerisinde oldum. Ve bütün bunlarla birlikte biz insani yardım gönderiyoruz. 15 gün kapılarda bekletiliyoruz. Kızılay 15 gün kapılarda bekletildi. Biz yardımlarımızı içeri rica, minnet, görüşerek, konuşarak ancak sokabildik. Ve süreç içerisinde de aynı sıkıntıları yaşadık. Bunları Sayın Perez biliyor veya bilmiyor, bilemem. Ama diplomatlarımız kendi aralarında bu süreci hep devam ettirdiler, görüştüler. Ve çok daha ilginç olanı, bakınız şu anda 27 Aralık'tan 4 gün önce ben Sayın Başbakan'la Türkiye'de, Ankara'da bir görüşme yapıyorum. İsrail-Suriye konusunda biliyorsunuz biz bir arabulucu görevi en direkt olarak üstlendik. 4 round özel temsilcilerimiz bu süreci götürdüler. 5. raundu biz Sayın Başbakan Olmert'le Ankara'da birlikte yaptık. O da özel temsilcisini getirdi. Ben de özel temsilcimi yanıma aldık. Oturduk ve yaklaşık 5,5-6 saat biz İsrail, Suriye 5. raundunu orada görüşürken ben Sayın Beşar Esad'la oradan telefonla irtibatımı kurdum. Özel temsilcim Dışişleri Bakanı Velid Muallim'le görüşmelerini yaptı. Hedefimiz nedir? Hedefimiz doğrudan görüşmelere nasıl geçeceğiz? Bunu nasıl başaracağız? Bunun çabası içerisindeyiz. İstiyoruz ki Orta Doğu'da barış egemen olsun. Buna gayret ediyoruz. Ve bir araya gelemeyen bu ülkelerin temsilcileri bir araya gelir hale geldi. Bunu başaralım istiyoruz. Ve bunları konuştuk. Ve iş bir iki kelimeye kadar düştü. Bu bir iki kelimeyi de hafta sonuna kadar dediler üzerinde tartışalım, müzakere edelim. Ondan sonra bu işi bu hafta sonu karara bağlayalım. Bu arada ben Sayın Olmert'e bunu artık açıklamak zorundayım. Sayın Olmert'e şunu söyledim. Dışişleri Bakanım yanımda. Özel temsilcim yanımda. Sayın Olmert'in de özel temsilcisi yanında. Dedim ki bakın şu anda Hamas'ın elinde esir bulunan askeri biz kurtarabiliriz. Ama benim sizden bir ricam var. Bu ricam şudur. Bakın Reform ve Değişim Partisi Filistin'de seçim kazandı. Demokrasiyi konuşuyoruz ya. İleri demokrasi diyoruz ya. Hep demokrasiden yanayız ya. Madem demokrasiden yanayız, o zaman bu demokratik mücadeleyi vermiş, halkın iradesiyle seçilmiş olanları bir defa saygıyla karşılamak durumundayız. Severiz veya sevmeyiz. Ve şu anda o seçilenlerden meclis başkanı sizin elinizde esir. Bu hükümetin bakanları sizin elinizde esir. Milletvekilleri sizin elinizde esir. Gelin dedim burada bir paket yapalım. Daha önce Sayın Abbas'a gösterdiğiniz o jesti burada da gösterin. Siz de bunları serbest bırakın. Dedi ki biz bunları serbest bırakırsak Mahmut Abbas kriz geçirir. Böyle deyince peki dedim. Elinizde çocuklar var esir. Kadınlar var esir. Gelin bunlardan bir paket yapalım, bunları serbest bırakın. Dedi ki yarın arkadaşlarımla görüşeyim, size döneceğim. Ve 27 Aralık hala dönecek ve 27 Aralık'ta bombaların Gazze'ye inmeye başladığını gördük. Ne oldu? 1200'e aşkın sivil öldürüldü. Bunların içinde çocuklar var. Bunların içinde kadınlar var. Bu insanlar öldü. Ne oldu? 5000'i aşkın yaralı var. Orantısız bir güç kullanımı var. Soruyorum sizlere. İnsanca düşünelim. Başımızı şöyle iki elimizin arasına bir alalım. İsrail'in elindeki silah gücü, kitle imha silahları da dahil, acaba zerresi Gazze'de var mı? Filistinlinin elinde var mı? Soruyorum sizlere. Bir şey biliyorsam kesinlikle yok. Ama burada bir orantısız güç kullanımı var. Birleşmiş Milletler Güvenlik Konseyi toplandı, karar aldı. Durdurulması için. İsrail açıklama yaptı. Tanımıyorum dedi. Peki bu Birleşmiş Milletler Güvenlik Konseyi az önce Sayın Ban Ki-moon da söyledi. Bakın Birleşmiş Milletler'in binaları bile vuruldu. Okulu bile vuruldu. Okullar, camiler, hastaneler vuruldu. Bütün bunlar yapılırken insanlık ne yaptı? Seyretti. Ama aynı insanlık Gürcistan'da böyle seyretmedi. Ama ben Gürcistan'ın kapısına da insani yardımı getiren ilklerdenim. Ve oraya da koşan ilklerdenim. Koştuk ettik. İşte diyorum ki burada biz bu darbeyi yiyen, mazlum durumuna düşen insanlara hangi dindendir, hangi ırktandır ayrımını yapmadan yardımına koşma göreviyle hepimiz aslında görevliydik. Ama ne yazık ki bu olmadı. Biz tabii Suriye'ye gittik, Ürdün'e gittik, Suudi Arabistan'a gittik, Mısır'a gittik. Buraları dolaştık. Tüm Avrupalı liderlerle telefon diplomasisi kurdum filan. Maalesef 3 hafta sürdü. Ama 3 hafta süreceğinin haberini de biz BBC'den aldık tabii. O ayrı mesele. Bu 3 hafta sürer dedi. Hakikaten de 3 hafta sürdü. Şimdi gelelim neticeye. Tabii bu fatura çok ağır bir fatura. Altyapı, üst yapı her şey gitmiş vaziyette Gazze'de. Tabii Sayın Genel Sekreterin ifade ettiği rakam mümkün değil. Öyle 643 milyon dolarlarla bu iş çözülmez. 1 milyar, 2 milyar, 3 milyar dolarlarla bu iş çözülmez. Burada çok ciddi bir fatura var. Ağır fatura. Ve burası da hiçbir ekonomik kalkınma imkanı olmayan Gazze'lilerin üzerine yıkılmıştır. Ve yatıp kalkıp bir şey söyleniyor. Hamas, Hamas, Hamas. Kusura bakmayın. Gazze'de sadece Hamas örgütünün mensupları oturmuyor ki. Gazze'de sivil halk oturuyor. Hamas örgütü aynı zamanda bir Değişim Reform Partisi'nin farklı bir şeklidir. Ama o hale dönüştüren de ne yazık ki seçimi kazandıktan sonra demokratik hakkını ona vermeyenlerdir bunun asıl vebali altında olanlar. Ve şimdi bir dönem başladı. Tek taraflı İsrail ateşkesi ilan etti. Ve ertesi gün Mısır'da yapılacak olan toplantıda Hamas o da ateşkesi ilan etti. İstenen ne? Birisi 1 yıl, birisi 1,5 yıl deniyor. Şu anda süre olarak böyle bir durum var. Bir diğer konu ne? Bir diğer konu ablukaların kaldırılması lazım. İsrail bu ablukaları kaldırabilecek mi? Yani kapıları insanlığa açacak mı? Kapıların insanlığa açılması lazım. Bu insanlar hapishanede mi yaşayacak? Eğer biz Cenevre Sözleşmesi'ni kabul ediyorsak, biz İnsan Hakları Evrensel Beyannamesi'ni kabul ediyorsak, eğer insanca bir yaşama saygı duyuyorsak, önce bu kapıların açılması lazım. İnsanlar bir yaşam hakkını bir defa görebilmesi, bunu yaşayabilmesi lazım. Bir diğer adım, deniliyor ki silah girmesin. Silah girmeyecekse, eğer bu tünellerin ucu Mısır'daysa, o zaman Mısır oradan içeriye giriyorsa silah, sokmasın silah. Bu da bir ortada bir gerçek. Fakat eğer biz Filistin'i farklı bir devlet olarak görüyorsak, bu konuda bu soru da enteresan bir soru. Bana öyle geliyor ki burada da bir tuzak yatıyor. Bir başka konu, o da uzlaşma. Yani Hamas ve El-Fetih arasındaki süreci hızlandırmak. Şimdi bu süreci hızlandırırken ben bunu Sayın Olmert'e söyledim. Dedim ki bakın, siz masada tek taraflı müzakere yapıyorsunuz. Sadece El-Fetih ile siz bu müzakereyi sürdürdüğünüz sürece orada netice alamayacaksınız. Siz Hamas'ı da bu masaya davet etmeniz lazım. Çünkü onlar da o ülkenin bir tarafı ve üstelik de seçim kazanmış bir parti. Siz onu da çağırmanız lazım. Beraber oturmanız lazım. Eğer bunu Birleşmiş Milletler yürütecekse Birleşmiş Milletler bunu yapması lazım. Temennim odur ki Birleşmiş Milletler burada bu işe ağırlığını koyar. Veyahut da Amerika Birleşik Devletleri şu ana kadar ortaya koymadığı ağırlığını Sayın Obama'nın, benim isteğim, beklentim o. Sessiz yığınların sesi olmasını bekliyorum. Kimsesizlerin kimi olmasını bekliyorum. Ve buraya ağırlığını koymalı. Ağırlığını koymak suretiyle yalnız Condoleezza Rice ile Livni'nin imzaladığı mutabakat çerçevesinde değil, bunun yeniden ele alınması lazım. Eğer yeniden ele alınmazsa bu danışıklı dövüş devam eder. Bu danışıklı dövüşün devam etmemesi lazım. Hamas'ın hatalarından, yanlışlarından kesinlikle vazgeçmesi lazım. Türkiye'ye burada bir görev düşüyorsa biz her an varız. Biz devreye gireriz. Ama dediğim gibi tarafları iyi tespit etmemiz gerekiyor. Eğer sadece El-Fetih al, diğerlerini dışarıda bırak, burada neticeye varılamaz. Şunu da bilelim ki dünya barışı için Orta Doğu barışı şart. Bunu bitirmemiz lazım. Bu bitmediği sürece dünya barışı da maalesef tesis edilemeyecektir. Benim şu anda özellikle ulusal uzlaşmanın çözülmesi noktasında kesinlikle kurulacak hükümette Reform ve Değişim Partisi'nin de yer almasının gereğini söylüyorum. Bunun da olması gerekir ve ulusal uzlaşı hükümeti de böyle kurulmalı diyorum. Ancak ondan sonra seçimlere gidilmeli ve bu seçimlerden sonra kurulacak olan hükümet, ister beğenelim ister beğenmeyelim, Filistin halkının iradesine saygı duymamız gereken bir hükümet olmalıdır. Teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you, Prime Minister Erdogan, for a very comprehensive and I must say, quite newsy response. Let me turn now to Secretary General Amr Moussa and the same question. How do we put this peace process back together after Gaza? And perhaps you could address the two things that Secretary General Ban focused on. First, how to achieve unity among the Palestinians, and second, what this new American administration can most usefully do as George Mitchell begins making his way around the region.
Well, thank you very much. Let me begin by thanking the Secretary General of the United Nations for the forceful position he has taken and for the actions he is calling for in order to save the situation in Gaza, to save Gaza after the carnage that has been committed against its people. Also, I wish to commend the role played by Turkey, a very positive, courageous, and clear role that Turkey, a member of the Middle East family of nations, want to help establish peace and to help deal with the major mistakes that have been committed against the Palestinians, and to ask for, work for, a fair, a just peace in order for peace to be durable. Now, David, you asked me to talk about the future and how we would address it. This cannot make me sweep things under the carpet, things that belong to the near future and also to perhaps distant future. The situation in Gaza was not a reaction. The assault against the Gazans was not just a reaction for some rockets being launched against southern Israel. And here I would open some brackets to say that we are against anything that would affect children, women, civilians, be them Palestinians or Israelis. And then continue to say that this situation in Gaza and in Palestine, it is a situation of foreign military occupation. So people and siege and blockade. Gaza is living within a blockade, a very severe one. The West Bank is under military occupation with barriers, with colonies, that's settlements. So the Palestinians are trying to express themselves, to find a future for themselves. You cannot ask people in Gaza living in starvation and hunger because of the blockade, the very sinister blockade, and then ask them to be calm and ask them, why do you throw stones against your occupiers? It is against the nature of people. Against the nature of people. You strangle them, you starve them, and then ask them to be quiet. And then, as has been discussed now, the question of smuggling. Of course, smuggling is illegal, illicit trade and illicit movement of things, of commodities and so on, including perhaps arms. You strangle them. Not a single window of opportunity. And then talk to them about illicit trade. If you want to prevent this, you have to open the crossing points. You have to give them food. You have to give them water, to give them medicine. It is a miserable life that the Palestinians have lived and until now are living in Gaza because of the blockade that Israel has imposed on them for 3 years now. Number two, another fact. The Palestinians believed the call for democracy. There was some policies, international policies at certain time calling on the Middle East, apply democracy. Democracy is the solution for everything, and it happens that I agree with that. The Palestinians believed the advice, ran elections, Hamas won, and half an hour, 25 minutes after the announcement of the results of the election, Hamas was served notice that aid will be suspended, and then came the blockade, a severe blockade, and hence Hamas was put on the defensive. But very much, as Prime Minister Erdogan has said, the people in Gaza are not only Hamas. It's only an organization among other organizations, but the people, 1.5 million people, of women, of children, of old people, they were attacked and they paid the price for this game that is going on between Israel, Hamas, and the game that has been caused, as is being caused until now, by the military occupation. Why Hamas was listened to in the occupied territories, within the Palestinian ranks, in the Middle East, within the Arab world? Why? Because it has a logic. They said, all right, President Abu Mazen, go and negotiate. And if there is something useful coming out of your negotiations, we will certainly support you. And in fact, they are on record as having said, we are ready to accept a Palestinian state within the borders of 1967, but we are not going to sign any paper until we see what is the result of that. So, President Abu Mazen didn't bring anything. Did not bring anything out of 1 full year of negotiations with the current Israeli government. That is what he said. He is on record as having said that. And in fact, he said it on this stage last year. I believe it was the Prime Minister Salam Fayyad. So this is the situation. It is not a question of Israel reacting to some rockets. It is much deeper than that. It is an action of occupation, an action of blockade, then a reaction of resistance, then the reaction of destruction carried out by Israel. Okay, that has happened. Are we going to stop here and the end of the world will occur? No. Perhaps all of us now are called upon to save the situation. As the Secretary General has just said, there are 3 or 4 things that have to be done. A ceasefire, a strong ceasefire, sustainable ceasefire, opening of the crossings, stopping the illicit traffic, and the conciliation between the Palestinians. That we have to do. And I want you to know that I do not absolve ourselves on the Arab side from also committing mistakes. But no mistakes, no mistake we have committed can compete with the major mistake that has been committed by Israel in destroying Gaza and killing all those people in only 20 days. Again, we try to involve the United Nations rather than to involve shooting and more bloodshed. Unfortunately, in the last several years, up until this January, and it was before January 20th, the philosophy was, no, keep the Security Council away. Give Israel a chance to do what they were set to do. We have witnessed that back in 2006 in Lebanon, and we witnessed that back this January in New York. But this is a long story. I don't think the time will allow us to do so, to explain it in full. Now, what should we do? We have a new administration in the United States. What President Obama has said is reassuring. Change. He addressed the Arab world through one of our major channels called Al Arabiya from Dubai, addressed us and talked to us. We listened, we heard, we understood. He sent his special envoy, Senator Mitchell, who is a very reasonable man. We discussed with him, we are going to discuss again with him, and I believe there are those prospects of the United States returning back to the role of honest broker, which we missed for the last several years. This is a key point for the future, that the United States gets back to the role of honest broker that listens to this side and say, yes, you are right on this, but you are wrong on that. And to the other side too, the same. This we have not seen in the last several years. Okay, now this is the first positive point. We hope that we are right in our assessment and in our hopes. The second is the Arab Initiative. We are ready. Formally, officially, at the highest level, all of us are committed to establish peace with Israel, to recognize Israel, to normalize with Israel, and to carry on all our commitments in accordance with Security Council resolutions, the Madrid Conference decisions, and whatever agreements we have signed with, that has been signed between any Arab country and Israel. We are ready for that. But the point is that we have not received any answer from Israel for the last 7 years. President Perez is a very eloquent man. He says that we accept, but this is just a good expression of words. There is no authorized decision taken by the government of Israel to respond to the most authorized message sent by an Arab summit held back in 2002. So our position is fully authorized. We haven't gotten any answer whatsoever, except some utterances here. We read it in some newspapers or translation from them. So we call on Israel now. What is your position on this initiative? Formal position, not just a statement here, formal position, as our position also was formal. If there is an acceptance, authorized acceptance by Israel, then we are on the right track. Therefore, the second point is for us to receive a formal reply about the acceptance of the Arab Initiative, which calls on us Arabs to turn the page of the conflict, recognize Israel, normalize with Israel, and have Israel as part of the family of nations in the Middle East, which until now Israel is not. But if Israel also withdraws, allows the Palestinian state to be established, withdraws from the other territories, we see no obstacle for us and for the Israelis to live together and get our act together. When are we going to receive this message? A question mark. The third point.
Secretary General,
okay.
If we have a chance to get a response from the President of Israel, and maybe this is a good time to do that since we're running short of time.
I know that the President is going to take all his time. So you give me 2 more minutes, please.
I don't want to bargain.
No. We'll be all ears to listen to President Perez.
Well, let's do wrap.
Now, the year 2009. We lived the year 2008 with a lot of promises, and it ended up in a bloodshed. For us to move from an administration to the other, from the year 2000 to the year 2008, then 2009, then 2010, then 2011, this is a gimmick that we are not going to accept. That is why. Now, we are in 2009. If there is real intention, the real work done by the honest broker, the political will be expressed by Israel in favor of peace, and progress will be done, will be made, then we are on the right track. If this year ends, we reach the day 31st of December, as we did in 2008, without any result, then we'll have to reconsider. There are a lot of other alternatives, but I believe in what Turkey is saying, and Prime Minister Recep Erdoğan said, we cannot reach, and Israel cannot reach any of its goals through military means. We need to have a political settlement, but a fair one, and in the year 2009. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary General Moussa. And now, President Perez of Israel, no one has worked longer or harder on this thing we call the peace process than you have. And tell us how you think we can put it back together.
Thank you. Helpfuls.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I heard the distinguished speakers talking about Israel, and they couldn't recognize the picture of the country that they know. I want to tell at the beginning, it's very difficult when a democratic country has to confront an illegal terroristic group. Whatever we do is being photographed. Whatever they do, nobody sees. For example, when you throw a rocket on a settlement in Israel, it's not being photographed. You cannot see the mother trying to defend her child the whole night and have a sleepless night. Did you ever saw on television a sleepless night? I have much respect for you, Mr. Prime Minister, but I must put things as they really are. Let me start with democracy, first of all. Who was elected by the Palestinians? Not Hamas, but Mr. Abbas, who is called Abu Mazen. 62% of the Palestinians voted for him to be the president of the Palestinian people. And we negotiate with him. Hamas participated in the elections, but they have a very unique idea about democracy. They think a democracy is a story of 1 day in 4 years. You go through the elections. After the elections, you can start to shoot and kill and threaten. Finished. Democracy is not a matter of elections. It is a civilization. And I want to contradict your words by quoting from the Hamas. I wouldn't go into inner Arab stories, but Hamas concerns us. Hamas published a charter. Let me just read 2 lines, 3 lines from it. From the Hamas charter. The day of judgment will not come about until the Muslims kill the Jews, when the Jews will hide behind stones and trees. There is no solution for peace initiative, proposals, international conferences are all a waste of time. This is an official charter. I don't know about which Hamas are you talking. Now, about the proportions. In the last 8 years, I mean, I hate to say it, but since you mentioned it, let me give the other picture too. Israel lost 1,167 lives from terrorists. 8,500 were wounded. It wasn't done in 20 days. It was done in several years. We restrained all the time. And then, since the last 4 years, when Hamas took over Gaza, 5,500 rockets and 4,000 mortars, shells, were fired upon civilian life in Israel at random. They didn't care if it's kindergarten, if it's... We didn't answer. For that reason, the ceasefire idea, Mr. Prime Minister, is very strange in our views. We never started fire. And we told the Palestinians time and again, don't fire, there won't be fire. We are not two equal parties at all. We never started. And who renewed, who broke? By the way, we didn't have a formal agreement about the ceasefire. They announced, and the Palestinians said, it's over. No, they broke it. And when the Prime Minister was at your place 4 days before the operation started, the government of Israel didn't yet decide to take actions against it. Now I want you to listen, because you watch all of your television, I can understand your feeling. Israel left Gaza completely, no occupation. We took out all of our soldiers from Gaza, all our civilians. People are talking about settlements. We took out from Gaza all the settlements and all the settlers, 15,000 of them. Nobody forced us. It was our own choice. We have had to mobilize 45,000 policemen to bring them back home at the cost of $2.5 billion. I want to understand, why did they fight rockets against us? What for? There was not any siege against Gaza. All the passages were open. Not only that, we participated in investing money in Gaza to develop an agriculture. We have a PEREZ center. We ourselves put in $20 million, sorry, to build greenhouses, to develop strawberries, the export of strawberries, excellent strawberries, flowers. Jimmy Wolfensohn, who was a representative of the quartet, took from his own pocket $5 million also to participate in it. They destroyed it. Why? They bombed all the passages. Why? Why did they fire at us? What did they want? We didn't occupy. There was never a day of starvation in Gaza. By the way, Israel is the supplier of water daily to Gaza. Israel is the supplier of fuel to Gaza. The only thing we didn't permit to bring in is rockets from Iran. And they build tunnels to do it. And you know, we also have women and children, and they want to sleep at night. You know what it means? Every day, almost 100 rockets falling at random. 1 million people have had to be under shelter. They came to the government and said, what happened to you? We want to have security. Why do you permit to happen it? And I want anybody telling me clearly what were the reasons for the attack. What were the purposes of the attack? Peace. We made peace with Egypt, not by arms, by agreement and negotiation. And we met all the requests of Egypt. We made peace with Jordan, the same. We gave back all the land, all the water. We opened with the Palestinians, and we told them that we are for a Palestinian state. I started in Oslo against a majority, maybe, of our people who didn't agree. And all the time, you know, Mr. Prime Minister, you have had to wait, because many buses that came from the West Bank to Jerusalem were full of dynamite. I was then Prime Minister. I saw it with my own eyes, the blood and the bodies. You know, I don't have to watch television. And when I came in, there were thousands of people shouting at me, traitor, killer, look what you did to us. You must. There are many details that you have to know. Israel is 60 years old. Do you know any other country that in 60 years has had to go through 7 wars, 2 intifadas, an ongoing boycott? What? Why? And in spite of it, we made peace with Egypt. I have the highest respect for President Mubarak. By the way, President Mubarak accused Hamas, not us. And President Mubarak knows the situation not less than you, Mr. Prime Minister. And President Abbas knows the situation not less than you do. And he accused Hamas, not us. And then mothers and children came to the government and says, what will happen? 1 million people every night have had to hide themselves in shelters. Mothers with sleepless nights. What do you really mean? By the way, I never saw anybody demonstrating against those missiles. That was okay? Nobody said a word. And we didn't answer. A day in, a day out, a year in, a year out. There is a limit to it. And by the way, and I have much respect also for the Secretary General, who used to be, and I hope is still a friend. I appreciate very much their initiative. But there is a problem in it, and I don't want to hide it. The problem is not the Arab world. The problem is the Iranian ambition to govern the Middle East. They supplied the rockets to Hezbollah. They supplied the rockets to Hamas. They are controversial in the Arab making. And you know what? We didn't have a choice. The leader of Hezbollah, Nasrallah, says, would I know that Israel will react so strongly, we wouldn't start it. Thank you very much. And then come Mashal, the leader of Hamas, and said, Israel reacted too strongly. What did they expect us to do? I don't understand. What would any country do? What would you do if you would have on Istanbul every night 10 rockets or 100 rockets? And we never gave up. All my life, as you said, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate, I'm fighting for peace. What we did is not the thing that we wanted to do. It's not our choice. Our choice is peace. What we did is because the lack of a choice. We weren't left with a choice. Would you go for such a convention to kill the Jews? Okay, those are words. But to kill the Jews and send rockets to kill them. What do you want us to do? I started to negotiate with Mr. Arafat. I must respect. It wasn't simple. The PLO was at the beginning a terroristic organization. Mr. Arafat agreed to stop terror and go to negotiations. By the way, whatever was achieved whatever was achieved positively was achieved not by rockets, not by force, not by power, but by negotiation. It takes time, it takes time. It's a very complicated country. It's a small country with 3 religions, with a lot of history, with different ethnicities. It's not simple. We made peace once, twice. Now we are negotiating with the Palestinians. There was a crisis among the Palestinians. We don't intend to be the one that decides if the Palestinians will be united or not. As long as Hamas did not rebel against the Fatah, it wasn't our business. We didn't say a word. You know what? I'm talking about Israel. Look what the people of the Palestinian people, the Secretary General of Fatah is saying about Hamas 3 days ago. His name is Asser Abed-Rabo, a person that I know and respect, who is the Secretary General of the PLO Executive Committee. And I quoted him. I quote him 3 days ago. Hamas has turned Gaza schools, mosques, all universities into centers of detention, interrogation, and torture. Dozens have been shot in the legs, beaten savagely, and had their bones broken. Hamas only to support broken. Hamas plundered trucks, bringing and distributes it only to the food, only to the supporters of their movement. They didn't give food to the people of Fatah. They killed 100 leaders of Fatah in full daylight. They throw them from the roofs. What do they really mean? Is that a matter of definitions? Israel does not want to shoot anybody. For us, all children are as important as one can think of. I created a PEREZ'e Center. All the money we have collected went to the cure of children, Palestinian children. They didn't have insurance, they didn't have hospitals. In 5 years, we brought to Israel 5,500 Palestinian children and their mothers to be cured. By the way, there is no hospital today in Israel that doesn't have Arab doctors. So the children could have communicate with the doctors in the Israeli hospitals. That is our choice, to touch a child. But if you put bombs in a kindergarten, and if you hide yourself behind innocent families, and before we try to shell anybody, we telephoned the people. We says, please leave the place. We don't want to hurt you. We made during those 20 days 250,000 telephone calls before we shoot. What could we do? What was our choice? And what would any government do? I'm very much sorry, Mr. Secretary General, about the United Nations building. According to our record, they start, not by your knowledge, they started to shoot from there. And by the way, when Europe bombed Kosovo, you hit the Chinese embassy. Did you want to? And hundreds of civilian people were killed in the bombing too. That's okay. So please, I want to speak clearly. Israel does not need a ceasefire because we never started a bullet, and we shall never do it. And the minute they'll stop shooting, there will be a ceasefire. We don't need anything else. Every moment, every day. We are not interested in fire. We are not interested in hurting or killing anybody. Now about the peace process. First of all, I want to say that it was a great move on the side of the Secretary General of the Arab League to introduce the Arab Initiative. I think that was a very positive move in a bitter history of misunderstanding and confrontations. The problems we were facing were the following. A, we started to negotiate directly with the Palestinians. President Mubarak told me, look, finish your negotiations with the Palestinians, we shall consider as the first move to an overall peace. We are negotiating, and I think we made headway in an extremely complicated issue. Take only the issue of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is not a piece of land. Jerusalem is fire. There are 3 different religions, and there are different streams in every religion. And people are fighting about every window, every door. It's easy to say, make an agreement. We are trying to find a way. We told the Palestinians that we are ready really to accept 242 and 338, which means really to return almost all of the land of the West Bank to them. Gaza we left completely. What is there to fight? So the ceasefire is, as far as it is concerned, is not a problem for us. We shall never start fire. And when they fired against us, we replied, but after a great restraint, and thousands of people were killed too. They weren't killed in a concentrated manner, so what? Doesn't matter. Now I think what we have to do, and by the way, I am for the restoration of Gaza. We have nothing. There wasn't a day that we didn't supply water and oil. I personally read every week a report about the humanitarian situation in Gaza. If something is missing, the government and myself, we are intervening to make sure there will be enough food and food. The tragedy of Gaza is not Israel. It's Hamas, who created there a dictatorship, a very ugly one. And the problem of the crossing now is not because we want to control the supply of food or building material or medical. They build tunnels to bring in those missiles. And they build an underground system of tunnels where, by the way, the leaders hide themselves there and they forgot the people. I think, yes, we would like to see Gaza flourishing. Gaza is a small place with an intelligent people. When we started to talk with Mr. Arafat, we took as an example Singapore. Gaza, together with the West Bank, are 9 times larger than Singapore. In Singapore, there are more people than in Gaza in the West Bank. Today, the problem is not land, but really education. And Gaza is not our enemy, and the people in Gaza are not our enemies. And we want to live with them in peace. We don't have hatred, and we don't have plans. For that reason, we left Gaza. And we are for restoring the life in Gaza, but without dictators and without shooting, not only us, but the people of Fatah.
And then, Mr. President, we should
just 1 minute.
Might end there.
And then we want to renew the negotiations with the authorized Palestinian Authority. We made headway. We want to start right away. We want to do it with the quartet. We want to do it straight away. We don't want to waste time. Our aim is peace, not war. And when we win a war, we don't consider it as a victory. For us, victory is peace, not war. We have power. We shall never use power unless we don't have another choice. And when we have a choice, we want peace. And I think that Hezbollah has learned a lesson. They stopped shooting. Nobody stopped them to shoot, but our reaction. I hope Hamas will also have a lesson. They will stop shooting and start talking. Everything that we can achieve is by talking, not by shooting. And that was, and that is, and that will remain the position of Israel.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has been a powerful and passionate debate. It's a debate that could go on tonight for hours, but we've already gone well past our closing time. I mean, Mr. Prime Minister, with apologies to Prime Minister Erdogan.
1 minute. 1 minute.
Well, you know.
1 minute. 1 minute.
Okay.
1 minute.
But I'm going to hold you to the 1 minute, please.
Sayın Perez, benden yaşlısın. Sesin çok yüksek çıkıyor. Biliyorum ki sesinin bu kadar çok yüksek çıkması bir suçluluk psikolojisinin gereğidir. Benim sesim bu kadar yüksek çıkmayacak. Bunu da böyle bilesin. Öldürmeye gelince siz öldürmeyi çok iyi bilirsiniz. Plajlardaki çocukları nasıl öldürdüğünüzü, nasıl vurduğunuzu çok iyi biliyorum. Ülkenizde başbakanlık yapmış olan 2 kişinin bana önemli lafları vardır. Tankların üzerinde Filistin'e girdiğim zaman kendimi bir başka mutlu addediyorum diyen başbakanlarınız vardır. Tankların üzerine çıkıp da Filistin'e girdiğim zaman kendimi mutlu addediyorum diyen başbakanlarınız olmuştur. Ve bana sayılar veriyorsunuz. İsim de veririm. Merak edenleriniz vardır belki. Şu zulme alkış tutanları da ayrıca kınıyorum. Çünkü bu çocukları öldürenleri, bu insanları öldürenleri kalkıp da alkışlamak, öyle zannediyorum ki o da ayrı bir insanlık suçudur. Bakınız, burada bir gerçeği bir kenara atamayız. Ben şurada çok not aldım. Ama bu notların hepsini cevaplayacak fırsatım yok. Fakat ben buradan sadece size 2 söz söyleyeceğim.
Prime Minister, we can't start the debate again, please. We just don't have time.
Excuse me. Sözümü kesmeyin.
With apologies, we really do need to get people to dinner.
Tevrat 6. maddesinde der ki öldürmeyeceksin. Burada öldürme var. 2, bakın bu da çok enteresan. Gilad Atzamoni, İsrail barbarlığı zalimliğin de çok ötesinde bir şey. Bir Yahudi. Bunun yanında İsrail ordusunda askerlik görevini yapan Oxford Üniversitesi Uluslararası İlişkiler Profesörü Avi Shalom, İngiliz gazetesi Guardian'da şunu söylüyor. Aykut devlet vasfını kazandığını belirtiyor.
I want to ask you to defer to our host.
Sana çok teşekkür ediyorum. Benim için de bundan böyle Davos bitmiştir. Daha Davos'a gelmem. Bunu da böyle bilesiniz. Siz konuşturmuyorsunuz. 25 dakika konuştu, 12 dakika konuşturuyorsunuz. Olmaz.
Let me turn this over to our host. Prime Minister,
Ladies,
Professor Schwab.
Thank you very much. If you stay for one moment, for 1 minute, please. I think despite all the emotions and of course when there's a question of lives, of children and so on, we all have to be emotionally involved. But despite everything, I think we have heard also some reasons or some arguments which let us believe that there is a common ground. And I think the role of the United States as a honest broker, which was highlighted, is a very important